Hello, welcome to another video, and today, as you can see from the title, it's another Let's Get Technical video. And what I'm going to be doing today is a little bit of work on this Dyson here, because I had a request in from, I can't remember who it was that sent the request in, but somebody put it on there anyway, that they wanted me to do a big mess test. Everybody loves big mess tests, don't they? And the old bag of filth is here. It's absolutely full of big mess. It's full of everything. That the one I did on the SIBO the other night and the one I did on the Vax, we're going to even better that, and we're going to do such a big mess test that this machine here might struggle to cope with it. So before we can do the big mess test, this has been brought down from upstairs, and it hasn't got its clutch, or it hasn't got its clutch belts on, because when I store the machines for long-term storage, they are stored with all the belts taken off the spindles. Now, on a non-clutch Dyson, that is not too much of a problem to put the clutch belts back on, because there's no clutch. You just basically take the sole plate off and you put your new belt on the spindle, you stretch it around your belt, and hey presto. With one of these, it's a little bit different, because they have two belts and they have a clutch. And on this machine at the moment, both belts are removed. So before I did the test, I was going to put the belts back on, but I thought, well, I might as well film doing it, because maybe some people don't know how to do it. I'm sure most people that strip these things down know how to do it. It could be a little bit fiddly, but I'm going to show you on this video how to remove and replace the clutch and the clutch belts. What I might also do is just to take one end of the clutch off and show how to replace the belt which goes between the spindle and the clutch, because most frequently that's the one that stretches, and rather than having to buy a brand new clutch, you can actually replace the belt. The other one that goes from the clutch to the brush roll doesn't quite go as often, but it's a little bit more involved, so I won't be doing that on this video. I believe Sam Watson or Becco 1987 might have a video on his channel showing how to change the other clutch belt here, but I might as well just put this on as a technical video. So let's get the camera down on the little table here and focus it down on the area I'm going to be working in. So you have to just bear with me for a second, because I need to be able to just do this, and we'll get the cleaner put down on the floor. So we need to lay it on its front, okay, so that it's looking like this. Let me just check in the camera that it can see. Yes, I think it can. So there we go. What we're going to be doing first of all is we're going to be taking the sole plate off. So we're just going to take the screwdriver and we're going to undo the 3 sole plate screws and lift them off, just like so. Now at this point normally you would have the brush roll here and the belt would be attached to the brush roll. So what I would normally do there is to lift this end of the brush roll up, and then I would, because I haven't got the official tools to lift the belt up, which is like a yellow metal piece, and I believe that they sell those at Manchester Vax. So if you look for their website, they do sell the belt removal tools, which is like it goes over the top of here. You hook your belt round it, and then you can pull the brush roll out from underneath. But basically, if you haven't got one, all I would do is just to lift it slightly and work it round and round and round and round and round under the belt until it's basically the belt has come free. Okay, and then you'll see the belt loose just in here. Right. So from this point, we need to remove the hose from the back. So that just pops off normally, and if it doesn't, we can just put a screwdriver down the back, and usually it will lever off, like so. So we can take the that's what's called the internal hose, that is, and they're a common failure point on older Dysons, these internal hoses. So then what we want to do is we want to pull and it usually can be quite a bit stiff, so maybe a little wedge underneath here to pull off the actual brush roll housing. And you've got to be quite gentle over this because they can snap off quite easily on these points here. So a little bit of gentleness, but you're still going to be quite firm at the same time in order to pop that off, like so. So we pop that off, and then what we can see underneath is the actual belt is still here. It's still underneath. So it's actually still fitted, but it's not actually on the brush roll. So in order to put the other one on, I need to be able to remove the clutch cover. Okay. So the clutch cover basically is this part here, and that has T15 screws that hold it on. So let's remove the U-bend as well first. Pull that down, remove the U-bend, and what that does, it gives you access to this little hole here. That little hole, the bottom of there, when the machine is in the, all we're going to do is to push the head back as if it's standing in the upright lock position. So it looks like this, basically. And then, right up the top of there is a T15 screw. That can be a little bit awkward to do. So basically, I'm going to put the camera back on here while I undo that screw. Let's just focus it back up again. Like so. And so we're going to get in here. Or is it? Do I need to have it in that position? Yes, I do. So I still need to be able to get down here to it. You know what, I've done this that many times before to move these things, and I still can't remember the exact procedure. Or do I need to have it? No, I'm sure it is that way. There we go. It's taken the whole length of the Allen key, basically, to, let me just see if the camera's still focusing. Yeah, the whole of the Allen key virtually has gone down into that hole, but I can feel it now. It's actually biting. So I'm removing that T15 torque screw from off of the clutch housing. We keep on turning this until we can feel that the screw is loose. There we go, it's loose. And there we go, it's fallen out for me. Getting it back in is a little bit of a game as well. Now what we can do is just to pull the other end of the internal hose off, like so, so that's out of the way. And now what we can do is, once again, having it in the vertical position like so, we can see in there, and then it's a bit difficult actually because I haven't got much light, there's a screw here and a screw there which I'm going to be taking out. So I shall just see if I can put the camera focus in on those. There we go. We'll get my Allen key in and we will take out the bottom screw and the top screw. I used to have an electric screwdriver that would have done this, but unfortunately it doesn't work anymore, so I've got to go back to the old-fashioned way of the old T15 Allen key or torque screwdriver. So now when we've done that, we should be able to just lift the belt, the clutch cover, you can see the belt's underneath, it's just getting this clutch cover free from the machine. Turn it round this way. I'll put this back on the top while I do this, because it's just a little bit fiddly. No, it doesn't. It has to come out in that way. There we go. You just got to sort of manipulate and fiddle around, and eventually it'll pull free. And there's your clutch cover there with your two screws. Okay, so now what we've got is the clutch is exposed, like so. And we can see in there basically there's our drive belt there, which goes to the spindle, and there's the other drive belt that goes to the brush roll. Now, in order to remove the clutch, we have to remove the knob. To remove the knob, what we would do, let me just turn the machine back onto the top here. There's two little clips underneath the knob that hold it on. The first one is directly underneath where this dot is here. So we need to get our screwdriver underneath there, and we need to pop the knob upwards. Sometimes it can be a little bit stiff to do this, a little bit tricky. So what we might want to do is maybe do the inside one first. So directly opposite where that mark is there, on the other side of the knob, just inside here, you'll put your screwdriver underneath there and lever that. So I'll put the camera up here while I do that. I'm just going to be putting the screwdriver where the mark is here is that side, so I'll put it just underneath here and push it upwards, and then whilst holding that upwards with my thumb, I'll go around to the other side and push up under this part here, and then it comes off just like so. So what you're effectively seeing inside the knob is you've got one there and one there, and those are the two clips that hold it onto the clutch. Okay, so you need to be a little bit gentle with that because you don't want to be snapping your knob or damaging your knob. Sounds a bit rude, that does, doesn't it? There we go, that's what it is. It's a clutch control knob. So then what we need to do, lie it back, well, we can actually have it in this position, and then basically is you grab hold of your two belts and pull it, and there's your clutch. Okay, so we've now removed the clutch. Now you can replace it from this point without doing anything else, but it is possible, as I say, to take those two screws off, remove that end piece, and then replace your clutch onto the top of here, but being very careful that you put it back together how you took it apart. I'm not going to do it on this video because I think Sam Watson has got a video on how to replace clutch belts, but Dyson recommend that you don't dismantle these. What they say is basically you replace it as a complete unit, and I'm sure Manchester Vacs would be able to supply replacement clutches for Dysons. So in order to get it back in, let's have a think about this now. Is what we need to do is to roughly have the clutch to spindle belt on the motor in that position, and then we would have the clutch to brush roll facing the brush roll, and we would then attempt to push the clutch back into its housing. I've done this. No, I haven't done it right, have I? I've got it upside down. Stupid me. Right, well, I wonder it wouldn't go in. Same thing again, make sure it's that way around and that way around, and then we would sort of push it back into its housing very firmly until it clicks in. That can be a little bit tricky, but when you've done a few, you soon learn how to do that. So basically, it's pushed back into its housing now. So then what we can do is we can hook this belt here around that motor spindle, okay? And that's what I'm going to do now. And that can be a little bit tricky as well. I know you can't really see a lot on the camera because it's a little bit dark here, but there we go. So I've hooked that clutch to spindle belt back around the drive shaft of the motor, just like so. So now that that belt's back on, we need to put our clutch cover back on. Let me see. So this is the part which goes back up there. So what I'm going to try and do is to put the screw back in the hole first, and because it can be a little wee bit tricky to try and get that screw back in otherwise, because it's down this hole here and you've got to get your Allen key right down. So I'm going to first of all feed it back in like so, and then I'm going to gently push the clutch cover, sorry, back over the top of the belt. And then I'm going to put one of the screws back in this hole here. Okay, just to tighten that down slightly, but not all the way. And then I'm going to have to feel down this hole here. Once again, it's tricky. I can't feel the screw. Hold on a minute, I'm going to have to find a torch. If I can see that screw head down there. Unless it's fallen out, I don't think it has. There we go. I'm going to have to slacken this one back off again because it looks like that screw hasn't gone exactly where I needed it to go. I always struggle with this screw here. This is always the worst one. No, it's not going to come. I'm going to have to take it back off again. This is such a pain. Such a pain. So all my videos are unedited. I don't sort of edit out the bits where I struggle, you see. So let's take that right back out. See, the screw is still in the hole. So all I might have to do is remove the screw from the hole and see if I can put the screw onto the end of the Allen key without it dropping off and then get it down the hole that way. Fiddly, aren't they? But I'm sure if Manchester Vax is watching this, or Sam Watson's watching it, he'll say, God blimey, absolutely useless. And yet, I have done this quite a few times before. Let's just have a look with the torch. Find where my hole is. Right, there we go. There we go. It's got it. It's got it. It's just you've got to feel for the hole, and it might take you a little while before you can get it back in, but it's going in now. There we go. It's tightened up. Absolute pain in the bum those are. So now we can put our top two screws back in here. There's one here, and there's one on the other side. Okie dokie. Well, that one's done up. And that one's done up. So now I'll put my internal hose back on, which is basically going to go onto that hole here. And that just clips on onto there. Now I'll put the knob back on. So obviously you need to put the knob back on in the correct position. So I would normally have it in that is the off position there, isn't it? So I'd have it in the middle position, and you want to line your dot up with the correct position, which is going to be in the park position here. So you push it back on. There we go. So there's the off and there's the auto on. So that's back on as it should be. So now what we can do is we can put our brush roll housing back on. So we'll tip it back over onto its front, make sure the camera can see. Yes, it can. I don't know if I can zoom in on that a little bit. Yeah, there we go. So what I'm going to do now is basically I'm going to put my sole plate back on. So I will connect up the hose to the sole plate. So we'll put that back on onto the housing there, onto the sole plate housing. Click that on, that's fine. And then we're going to be pushing both ends back down into the places where they push down onto the actual onto the hood. So we firmly push those until they click. So now we've got our belt through the hole. What we need to do is we need to get it onto the brush roll, and this is where, if you had the proper tool, you would hook your belt up onto the tool like so, and then you'd be able to slide your brush roll in. But because I haven't got one, because I don't do that many of these now to merit having one, first of all what I will have to do is to pull the belt up, and they can be quite stiff, these can, so pull the belt up and get the end of the brush roll into the belt. And again, they can be a right pain without the right tools. Come on, in you go. That's it, so it's over the end. And now I'm going to turn the brush roll round and sort of walk the belt across, like so. Then I'm going to push my, and now what seems to have happened now is the end caps now have come a bit loose, so I need to push those back in. Let's just push that end cap right the way back in into the bearing. That's it. There we go. That's better. So now we're just going to basically hose the brush roll back where it's supposed to go. One end into here, so your bristle sticks down, and then the other end will go into here. And then sort of give it a spin, like so. And then from that point we can put our sole plate back on. So it's just a case of line the front up. I'm sure most people know how to refit a sole plate to one of these, making sure that they're all lined up at the bottom. Open our clips so that it goes back in. And then we'll do the clips up. 1, 2, 3. Right, so then, now at this point it shouldn't turn freely because obviously it's in the reclined position. The clutch is now engaged with the motor, so it'll be more difficult to turn now because you're effectively trying to turn the motor. And this is when you'll notice whether the belts are worn out or not, because the easier that is to turn, the more worn the belts are. So we'll put the U-bend back on, just at the back of here. Click that up. Put the blockage inspection port back on, which dropped off, like so. And then I'll just go and plug it in and we'll just check that works. Right, so turn it on now. So that isn't working. Obviously it's jammed somewhere along the line. I've jammed the brush roll. So what I need to do now is remove the sole plate and find out why, just quickly. That's just typical, isn't it? When I'm filming, it plays up. Obviously something I've done wrong here. There we are, that's turning free. I can't understand why that wouldn't go around then. Let's just try it again now. Well, it appears to work now. Obviously something wasn't quite right on the end caps here, but it's obviously it's freed itself now, so let's try again. That's that, and that one's that, and that's that. Let's try again now. That's what it's supposed to do. I think what had happened is that I hadn't probably quite right got that end cap seated, because I could see the belt trying to turn the brush roll when I had that off, and it was just spinning on the brush roll without the brush roll turning. So obviously I hadn't quite got the end cap seated on there. That's why it always pays to check it before you turn it back over, just to make sure you are turning the brush as you should be. But like I say, I mean, that's it's fairly easy once you've done it a few times. It's just a bit fiddly, But basically, the same technique applies to this machine, which is a DC04. The DC07 it would apply to the DC14. And I'd imagine, I don't know if the 33 is the same. I think they use the same kind of floor head on them. But the procedure for changing the clutch would be pretty much the same. In the video I haven't gone into replacing the belts on the clutch because Dyson don't recommend you do it. It is possible to do it, and I think Sam's got a video of replacing clutch belts on one of these. Or you just give Manchester Vax a call, go on their website and they're able to supply you with a refurbished clutch. And then you just bang it in yourself in pretty much the same way as I've done here. The only area that you're likely to have a bit of bother with, as I say, is this top screw underneath here to get the clutch cover off. It can be very fiddly, that can, if you haven't done it before. So if you've got a torch handy, it's quite useful just to shine up there to make sure you're putting the screw into the right place and finding your hole. But there we go. Essentially that's how you would replace a Dyson clutch. Just stand the machine up now and I can put it down for its big mess test. And we will see you again soon. Bye for now.